Welcome back. This is Sunday Express, and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be putting matters of mathematics into perspective. And this is a question I posed to you when we started this particular broadcast. At what point have you applied what you learned in math in your day-to-day life? Your guess is likely as good as mine. Now, across Kenya, there's been growing concern that learners, how they engage in mathematics. Many students often view that the subject is difficult or intimidating, yet experts say the real issue lies a little bit earlier in how children develop numeracy, the basic ability to understand and work with numbers in everyday life. And thus, tonight, why math matters. We're joined by an expert in that particular field. That is James Mburu, the coordinator, curriculum and assessment, foundational numeracy at Mizizi, Elimu, Afrika. On a very light note, hapa ni wapi mwalimu wa math? Tumewafikia walimu wa hesabu, zamu ni yenu, tumefika. Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you, Ray.
Now, to begin with, when you talk about numeracy, what do you exactly mean, you know? Anything that you talk numbers, everyone gets antsy because you're talking about math. But I'm sure there's a difference between math and numeracy learning. Unpack that for us.
Yes, thank you so much, Regina. And first is to send my good messages for International Day of Mathematics that was commemorated yesterday. It was really a good day. And as you ask, mwalimu wa math, hapa ni wapi? So thank you so much, and I hope we'll have a double lesson.
I'm not too sure about a double lesson, but let's understand why math matters.
Why math matters. You know, the foundation of numeracy is built on the foundational concept that talks about things to do with numbers, addition and subtraction. Those are the basic things.
Addition and subtraction.
Yes. Okay. Those are the basic things that a learner should know. So when we talk about numbers, numbers is we have whole numbers where, you know, when learners join in PP1, they start talking about pre-number activities. And when we talk about pre-number activities, those are things that they really do even at home.
Yes.
So, but people think that mathematics is a hard concept, but they forget that mathematics is everywhere. Even here, we have mathematics. I can see a lot of shapes. I can see a lot of
even the time that we have is math.
Yes, the time is math.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we think that mathematics is so complex, but we forget that everything, even our body parts, are all about numbers.
All right.
You know, when learners join PP1 or playgroup and they start singing the song about body parts, they are doing numbers. So they are saying that we have 2 ears, we have two eyes.
We have 2 eyes.
So that counting is all about numeracy.
Numeracy.
Yes, but when we put this concept about mathematics, we forget that mathematics is everywhere. So the basic of foundational numeracy sits where we talk about numbers, things to do with pre-number activities, whole number activities, addition and subtraction. So those form the basis, and I'll be telling you why.
Now, before you even tell me why, I would want to know, you know, you've said PP1, is there an ideal age where numeracy within our education should be numeracy development should be prioritized most?
Yeah, in my own view, I will say that the heart of numeracy, foundational numeracy, sits in grade 2.
Grade 2.
Yes, grade 2. And that is age 7 for the Kenyan curriculum.
Yes.
So at age 7, this is where learners now are introduced to slightly complex task in foundational numeracy. And if you look at the grade 2 curriculum, you'll find that now in grade 2, learners are introduced to what we call multiplication and division, which is not introduced in PP1 all the way to grade 1. So at grade 2, this is where we have a whole transition of learners moving from the basics that they have been learning all the way from PP1. Now they start learning slightly a bit complex, that is multiplication and division. Those are the 2 additional concepts that are introduced in grade 2. Right. But if you look at numeracy or mathematics curriculum that is provided by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, you will find that PP1 all the way to grade 3, they learn the strands, what they call the strands at the moment. They are the same. because we have 3 major strands. That is the numbers, we have measurement and geometry.
So numbers, measurements, and geometry.
And geometry.
Grade 1 all the way to grade,
yes,
grade
yes,
3.
Yes.
Allow me to use for this time Mwalim and this
Mwalimu wa math. Yes.
You've said at age of 7, but if we look at the results of the recent report from KEPSA and how the students actually performed, they did not do so well in mathematics. And we have government that is focusing on 60% of opportunities, and even in education and such, all lined up to STEM. And the backbone of STEM is math.
Yes.
So how do we catch up? How do we bridge? Because clearly there's a problem. There's a problem in terms of how we apply math.
Yes.
We missed the bus. How do we catch up?
I will say that we are not so lost.
All right.
Because when I look at the KEPSA, and even maybe I can also talk about the 2025 results, the KCSE, because largely you will find that the learners who scored E, which was around 50,000, almost 50,000 learners got a straight E.
Yes.
In KCSE. If you diagnose that seriously, you will find that most of them fail in mathematics.
Correct,
the first subject that they performed poorly will be mathematics. But then, now you mentioned about KEPSA.
Yeah.
That is grade 6. So the issue that we have at the moment is that we tend to focus on the grades that are being assessed too much, forgetting that the foundation is what matters.
Okay.
So the idea is if we put more emphasis on the foundational grades, that is age PP1 all the way to grade 3, and we ensure that learners are acquiring the competencies that they require, we will not struggle much in KEPSA. So, and maybe for context, I want to share a story, or rather what we did in Bungoma. We did a study with the Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology, that is Master, and we found that in grade 3, by the end of grade 3, most learners were still relying on concrete and drawing sticks and circles. They were still doing that.
Yes.
And
even all the way to grade 5.
Yes. Actually. So if by that grade the learners have not acquired the mental mathematics, it becomes a challenge, because they will still they will have to proceed to KEPSA and all that. But then if they have not mastered, because some of this, when we talk about foundational numeracy, we are talking about the basics.
Yes.
And these learners should have mastered simple addition, simple subtraction, simple multiplication, so that as when they get to grade 4, they already have the basic, they're able to do that with ease. But that is not happening. That
is a fact on ground. It is not happening. We're still counting sticks and balls even in grade 5, 6 onwards, right?
Yes, yes.
So now, from where you sit, how do we build capacity, especially not just looking at teachers, but also those who get to do their assignments with these children? That's the parents and the guardians. How do we build capacity with them so that they can help their kids catch up?
My first thing to parents is that I'll say they should stop giving pressure to teachers. Because I think all this is experienced because of the pressure from the parents. For example, if a child in PP1 goes to school today and they come back without assignment, most parents will question, why don't you have an assignment? But the fact is, the learners in PP1, PP2, they do much of oral activities. But we forget that oral activities, there is a difference between oral and written. So most of these parents will put more pressure to these teachers, saying that, you are not delivering, you are not doing your best. But if as parents, we start acknowledging that the learners are expected to do different things in different grades, then we appreciate that and we allow our teachers to do what they are supposed to do. Then we'll reduce the pressure and we'll allow them to do their best.
So other than pressure, Mwalimu,
yes,
because no one wants to be called to a meeting where your child is leading from the back.
Yes.
Right? So what do we do to assist the kids who did not grasp, the foundation? And, education is still continuous. Yes. And math is it's actually the backbone of education as we look at it. How do we help them help themselves, so to speak? How do we go about it?
maybe I can talk about what teachers need to do.
Yes.
So that they get to understand what is happening. So the competency-based education at the moment really puts emphasis on formative assessment. So, and some of these formative assessment practices, they are very simple. When you give assignment to learners, when you give 5 tasks to learners, after maybe at the end of the week, you go and mark. But most of the time, we don't acknowledge that is data. So as teachers, if we use that data and find, instead of just marking ticks and wrongs, we check where learners are doing so well and where learners are not doing so well. And that is what we call formative assessment, which is really advocated in the CBE.
Basically a data analysis, a comparative data analysis for each and every student in the class.
Yes, but necessarily looking at the kind of errors that are emerging within that particular class. And now, as a teacher, I know you know about lesson planning. We lesson plan so that we get to we teach, and where learners are not grasping the knowledge, we are always allowed to reteach. And now reteaching, if we use the practices such as formative assessment, where we look at learners where they are not doing so well, then we can always go back and look and try to address those challenges, rather than just leaving them to continue, and yet they are not getting the knowledge that they require. Yes.
Now I'm looking at a situation where a teacher is teaching a class of around 40-50, and that is in a public school. So there is less one-on-one interaction even with the pupils that they are teaching. And they're not just teaching math in PP1, PP2, PP3, maybe they're taking several classes. So there's also burnout and fatigue. Then they require support from home. These are the parents and the guardians. What do we do with the guardians so that they can support this teacher? We're just looking at that was an ideal situation, but on ground we know that there are teachers who cannot, they can't, it's too much. It's said pressure left, right and center. Back at home, how can we support as parents?
Yeah, I acknowledge that, and actually I once sat in a class where a teacher was handling more than 100 learners in a class. But they are doing really exciting job there. So what I can tell parents is that let's take foundational numeracy as a continuous process, as something that it is practical at home. In most cases, we send learners to go to the shop, to go to the market. We give them 200 shillings, we give them 100 shillings. We ask them to buy bread and all that. When they come back, are we able to sit with those learners, our children at home, and tell them, okay, I gave you 100 shillings. You bought items worth 80 shillings. I want you to do a calculation and calculate and tell me how much change you received. So if they were supposed to get 20 shillings and they realize that they received 15 shillings, what happens? They need to understand that there was a problem. So when we talk about foundational numeracy, we say that it is really practical, even for parents to do it at home. When you have a task like maybe you do chicken, you can even ask learners to count those chicken. That is part of parents supporting mathematics or building those concepts. Because remember, when learners start learning, they begin learning from concrete. Concrete, these are things that they can see, they can touch. So things like bottle tops, that's why when you go to PP1, you'll find a lot of bottle tops. Yes. But then as they progress, they need to start migrating, moving to pictorial. Pictorial is just maybe, instead of having a real bottle top, you have maybe a representation. And then lastly, we have the abstract concept where now they do the mental mathematics. So that is very critical. And when you talk about parents at home can really support foundational numeracy, I would say, because we have a lot of activities that involve use of foundational numeracy tools like what I said, counting items, doing time together, and a checklist, just trying shopping list, something like that. Yeah, that will be really nice to have parents to do that.
How then do we tackle the lack of concentration? Because that is also been cited as a challenge with this particular generation.
Concentration from?
Yes, concentration from learners in class, because half the time they zone out. They're not spending so much time learning so much.
And I resonate with that.
Yes.
It's because, one, we have made our classroom to be so boring. You know, you go to a classroom, it is a grade 1 classroom, there are no charts on the wall. What do you expect? These learners, you know, it's not a college where you are teaching a lot of theoretical items. So we need, as teachers, we need to acknowledge that learners learn well by seeing, by touching, and that's why when we talk about concrete materials, when we talk about pictorial, having charts on the wall, that is really making learning fun. The other thing is we need to make learning fun. You know, in most cases, I think most of these things, it's all about attitude and mindset. The attitude
of the teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can imagine, I remember when I was in school, and some teachers will say, mathematics is not for everyone. So what do you expect as a learner?
Yes.
So it's like you are pushed off, you know, out of that system. But if we say that mathematics is fun,
inclusive.
It's, you know, it's inclusive, it's for both boys and girls, you know, it's not...
The change of mindset.
Yes, change of mindset.
All right.
And now let's make our classroom interactive. Interactive
classes.
Yes.
Now, as we bring this to a close, from where you sit as a coordinator, curriculum and assessment, foundational numeracy, that is Mizizi, Elimu, Africa, what recommendations would you give, you know, fellow teachers like yourself, you know, to just have numeracy incorporated in our learning so that we can build a society? STEM is everything, as we say.
Yes, yes, and as we said that 60% should be going to STEM.
Yes.
So as we aim to achieve that, we really need to pay much attention to the foundation of numeracy. And the one thing I will say to the teachers is that don't rush too much. When you are introducing a concept, just be patient with the learners. Do the concrete, you know. Allow them to manipulate those materials. At some point, start transitioning them to the pictorial and then later on to the abstract. The challenge we have with the teachers is that we follow the curriculum, we follow the weeks, you know, the schemes of work that must be followed. The curriculum assessment support officer, when they come to school, the first thing they check is the record. Yeah. So I think mine is to call for patience, to allow teachers move with the right speed so that the learners are able to move swiftly. When they have not understood, let the teachers go back and revisit that concept before it's too late. Because you can imagine at the end, if you assess learners at the end of the year and you realize that they did not master concept, it will be too late for you to come back. But if you do that every week, every 2 weeks, then it will be a good practice for teachers, and you will be able to correct anything that learners will have not achieved at that point. Right. And let's make our classes fun. You know, it's not all about that serious mathematics. It's all about making mathematics fun.
Making mathematics fun and having patience, especially where you're dealing with a group of learners. Group dynamics demands that each child has their own weakness as well as strengths. We do a comparative analysis and be patient as they learn the concepts. Numeracy is a foundation of math. So today we had Mwalimu wa Math on set. Thank you very much. James Mburu, Coordinator, Curriculum and Assessment, Foundational Numeracy at Mizizi, Elimu, Africa. Their patience and behavioral and mindset change in regard to matters math.